Welcome to Pod Save America Live. We're taking your questions with Priyanka Arabindi. With us as always.
As always.
We've got the whole rest of the crew here. Lovett's back from the road. Welcome back.
Hi.
He's got Twitter back on his phone, so watch out.
It's back. I couldn't do it. I let y'all down.
Tweeting about sweet green lids.
What about them?
It is concave, and it makes no sense.
Oh yeah, it really does.
We're trying to dress a salad here. Give us a little wiggle room. Get that lettuce moving.
I've never thought about that, and that's a good take.
Thanks,
Anyway,
Priyanka.
I'm sure that wasn't one of the questions.
No. We can kick it off. First, we have Mueller-ish related questions. Okay, so first up, we have Trump just declared executive privilege on Nadler's subpoena on the unredacted Mueller report, and this person wants to talk about that and Barr being held in contempt. What does it mean to be held in contempt, and how far does executive privilege extend? Can you tell us what to think here about this whole situation?
Nice try.
Yeah,
nice try on that one.
Doesn't really make sense. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I got a great LSAT score, but I'm not a lawyer. I chose not to be. But if I were a lawyer, I'd agree with what I think now, which is that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, he declined to declare executive privilege over the report at first. And then what happened is Congress said, we want the full report. We don't just want the redacted version. And the Department of Justice and the White House said, fuck off, we don't want to give you the full version. And then they also said, by the way, the grand jury proceedings should be protected. I don't know why they'd be protected by executive privilege. Executive privilege involves conversations that the president has with his advisors.
Yeah, I mean, they're like executive privilege, which is a term that's thrown around like first principles. Like the idea is Congress is entitled to do oversight, but there is a recognition that in order for the president to do his or her job, they need to be able to have conversations and receive information to reach a good conclusion, and that some of that doesn't belong to Congress because it's part of the decision-making of the president, and that has some kind of protection because otherwise the president wouldn't be able to have advisors tell him hard truths, say things that they wouldn't want to say in front of Congress, et cetera. So that's the underlying thought or idea behind something by what people say is executive privilege. Why it would apply to a grand jury.
Yeah, I mean, and there are court fights. There have been court fights in the past over executive privilege all the time because it doesn't say anywhere in the Constitution, it doesn't delineate in the Constitution exactly how much power Congress has when it comes to oversight. Only the Congress does have oversight authority, and how much power the executive branch has to withhold information from Congress. So there have been court fights about it, and they go back and forth. What's different now is a few things. Number one, the Mueller report has a lot of evidence that the president obstructed justice. So he may have committed a crime, so they would like the full report for that because Congress's constitutional one power that Congress does have is to begin impeachment proceedings. And two, I thought I had a two.
Well, one thing that I would add, while you're thinking of your two,
yeah,
I'll just say that the Mueller report makes a really important point about this, which is it's actually significant that
I remember I too.
That when the president breaks a law, that doesn't flow from his inherent powers as president. In fact, that when he's supposed to faithfully execute the laws, and so if he is doing things, even things that flow from his power as president with corrupt intent, right, to obstruct justice, that it's actually Congress's duty and obligation to find out about that and investigate that, precisely because it's the president's job to faithfully execute the laws.
So usually fights over executive privilege are about a specific piece of information or a specific set of documents. What the Trump administration has decided in the wake of the Mueller report is that they are going to defy every subpoena that comes from Congress to every administration official, every subpoena for documents regarding anything. They're going to defy any kind of subpoena related to Trump's, or not subpoena, they're going to reject Congress's lawful right to obtain Trump's tax returns. So no matter, basically all congressional oversight, they're stonewalling and saying, no, we're just not doing this. So of all people, former George W. Bush official John Yoo.
John Yoo, famous for promulgating the idea of a unitary executive, which basically says all executive branch functions, every cabinet official, the Justice Department, all of its powers flow from the president, and therefore the president has total control over those bodies. This is somebody who has advocated for a supremely powerful executive branch.
And he was quoted in the New York Times as saying, "I think this is going too far."
Yeah, when you
Like-
lost you.
Yeah. So what can Congress do? So the Democrats on the Judiciary Committee are voting today, probably as we speak, to hold the Attorney General William Barr in contempt of Congress. That doesn't necessarily have teeth, because what that does is, if you get a contempt citation out of Congress, you usually deliver that to the Department of Justice and say the Department of Justice or the U.S. Attorney for D.C. would then have to prosecute the official that you hold in contempt. That's not going to happen. But why they're doing this is because this is the first step. The next step you take is there's a second resolution that the House could pass to say he's held in contempt, and also now we're going to court to sue him over this. So then you take the fight to court. If then the judge sides with the Democrats and Barr and the White House still refuse to comply with subpoenas, then the court can say you're in contempt of court, and they could jail the Attorney General or impose fines. We've never gotten to that place yet, and
we're really playing with the real bottom layer of Legos here. We're at the real. This is some foundational Lego stuff. I will only add that what I was thinking about is somebody saying, Mr. President, you lost you, and he goes, you who, and then an aide comes in with a yoo-hoo for him, and he's like, I didn't want that, but I'll take it. And then all of a sudden he's just drinking yoo-hoos.
I bet he's a big yoo-hoo drinker.
Yoo-hoo is definitely up Donald Trump's alley.
For sure. Yoo-hoo and Cheetos.
He's like ignoring the conversation about John Yoo and executive power, kind of drifting in and out, checking his phone, and then all of a sudden he's like, I don't maybe think of this, but I'll take a yoo-hoo.
Congress also apparently has inherent contempt power, which means that Congress themselves can jail anyone who is in contempt of Congress, but they've never used it.
Well, no. They haven't used it in a long time.
Sorry, they haven't used it in a long time. And it doesn't seem like they're going to use it here.
Yeah, because why not? Why not, John?
I think because they want to pursue the court strategy. They realize this is going to end up in the courts, and they feel like it will be more legitimate if a court decides rather than if Congress is just, jailing people left and right.
Yeah, but it would end up in. I don't know exactly how it works, partly because it's untested, but it would still end up in court. But I do think that, at a certain point, so the reason they call it an inherent power is because if the Constitution recognizes that Congress has a duty to conduct oversight, and the executive branch refuses to participate in that oversight, Congress must have the authority to enforce its ability to find out information on behalf of the American people.
Yeah.
So that is why this inherent contempt idea is starting to get circulated, and I would like to see some of these Democrats put their gavels on the table. You know what I mean?
Don't hold your breath.
Perfectly leads into our next question. From Linnea, she wants to know, first she wants to know if John can pull his mic closer to his mouth.
Sure.
Second, aside from calling, what can we do? What can we do to pressure House Democrats to move faster and more aggressively on things like this? Are any activists planning protests or other actions? What ideas are there for people to do?
Yeah, after the calling your members of Congress, I think people should start marching. Start planning. Because right now, Democrats in Congress do not believe that their constituents and the American people writ large care about impeachment. That's what polls say. Polls say that it's not an issue that a lot of people care about. Polls say that a slight majority are opposed to beginning impeachment proceedings right now, even though a majority of Democrats are in favor of beginning impeachment proceedings. So long as Democrats in Congress don't think that you care about impeachment, they're not going to do anything about it. And what they're going to say is all the people yelling about this on Twitter or on podcasts just represent the activist base, and they don't actually represent most Americans, and so we're not going to do it. So it's all about public pressure. If you believe this is important, you should, call your member of Congress and organize a group to go march on the Capitol.
Yeah.
Meet with your congressman.
I also, I mean, look, also part of this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy because part of the reason the American people have said they're not really sure about impeachment or lean against it is because the second it started being talked about, it was talked about as something that Republicans were unanimously opposed to and Democrats were divided about, which is the perfect way to get an issue nobody's going to be interested in. I'd also say, too, one thing that I've been thinking about is just so much of the debate about oversight has this feeling of kind of Democrats crying bloody murder and trying to get stuff from the administration and it being a kind of struggle. And I would like to see Democrats in Congress start figuring out hearings that don't require Trump cooperation for big moments.
Yeah.
I just, that part of why I think this all feels
point.
so prospective is, and hypothetical is, it just, every day it's another story about how Democrats are getting to the point where they really may start to use some of their serious powers and the Trump administration is stymieing them. And like that has just been endless and repetitive. And it just feels a bit hopeless. And, one of the things is it comes out of climate change, but there's something interesting that happens when people believe a problem can't be solved, they stop caring about it. And so to me, part of this is there's this vicious circle where Democrats have said it's impossible to remove it. Democrats in Congress have said it's impossible to remove him and it's probably not worth it. People have internalized that. So you have a combination of people saying they're against impeachment, people who don't think it's worth anything, even though that's, I think, an open question. I think John's argued pretty well about why it would serve an important function, and also people who believe it's not the right thing to do, which gets combined. So to me, I would like to see one place where we could all agree is Democrats should start pushing for people to come deliver testimony that doesn't require Trump to go on board, because that steady drumbeat of it being in the news will start to make it look like Democrats are effective. And if Democrats can look like they're effective, suddenly impeachment won't necessarily look like such a bad idea.
I think that the challenge there is who can they call to testify that's not a member of the administration about, any of these misdeeds, crimes, potential. I mean, there's Deutsche Bank executives over the people who've loaned Trump money. I mean, there's periphery witnesses, but I think the problem they're facing is so many of the people they call to testify work for the administration. The administration is saying, fuck you, we're not letting any of them testify.
Yeah, I guess it starts with Mueller.
It starts with Mueller.
It starts with Mueller. That would be a big deal. Yeah, I mean, look.
Also, technically an employee of the administration.
Still
employed by DOJ.
He's still on payroll. Is he still? He's still getting that sweet government health care?
Well, I think he's getting that for life.
Good for him. So is James Comey, I guess.
Anyway,
all right. Next questions are about the big New York Times story, I think published yesterday afternoon.
TLDR.
So basically, there's a story that Trump has essentially lost more money than nearly any other individual taxpayer year over year. They had 10 years of federal tax information between 1985 and 1994, and they lost over $1 billion, which is not great. So Brendan is asking, do these stories of Trump being not as rich as he claims or not paying much or anything in taxes due to loopholes really mean anything anymore?
It's a great question.
I have to tell you, I saw $1 billion loser trending or something like that. And I really have to tell you, I don't give a shit. I care that we know officially, factually, that the story Donald Trump tells about himself is a lie. But again, similar to the Mueller letter that he was pissed at Barr, I do feel like we're getting a bunch of deleted scenes from 2016. Like, it would have been really useful because a big part of Donald Trump's case was that he was this successful businessman. But, and you know what? I don't want to be totally dismissive of it. It is important that we get to the bottom of Donald Trump's finances, but I care more about his finances in terms of his corruption and his being beholden to foreign interest as president than I do about the fact that the story he told to become president is a lie, because now we're measuring him not on the promise of his business acumen in the White House, but what he's actually done. So I do think the stories are important because they do paint a picture of somebody that was in a great deal of debt and beholden to a lot of banks, beholden maybe to foreign financial interests, beholden to maybe some nefarious foreign influence, whether it's money laundering or dealings around Trump Tower Moscow or what have you. I find, he really wasn't a good businessman to be far less useful now than it would have been, say, in October of 2016.
I completely agree with that. I think that We got him. We got him. He said he was this self-made billionaire, and he's not. It's like, yeah, we've always known that. He lied about it. Now we can prove it with more documents. I think it has limited utility, except for, hashtag billionaire loser RT if you agree, and then 1,000 RTs, and he's not president anymore. That's it. But I think to your point, when you connect it with, I think it is useful in this way. When you connect it with his corruption and what he's done as president, right? We've said before, if the overall message about Donald Trump heading into 2020 is, he campaigned America first, but it's always been Trump first. It'll always be Trump first. He only cares about himself. He only cares about enriching himself. Then as you start to make that case, you can tell people how many of you just had, a $1 billion allowance from your father and then could spend money however you like, lose money however you like, and that you have your parents there to just pick you up. Even when you're 50 years old, they'll still give you millions and millions of dollars.
You crazy little tyke.
And you wonder why Donald Trump pushed so hard for this Republican tax law that gave really rich people a whole bunch of money and didn't give the middle class much else. And your paycheck hasn't gone up. You're paying too much for healthcare. He doesn't give a shit. He's never given a shit because he's cheated the system ever since he was young, and he's still cheating the system today. He's a cheater. And I think what you said too, but who is he in debt to?
Right.
And when he makes foreign policy decisions, is he making those decisions because of what's best for America, or because of what's best for Donald Trump and his personal finances? We know during the campaign that one of the reasons he was so friendly to Russia is because he had Trump Tower Moscow waiting in the wings that could possibly have made him $300 million. So we know he was not looking out for the best interests of the United States. He's once again looking out for the best interests of Donald Trump. So I think it's useful in that regard.
Totally. And look, I think it's sad. There are a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump because they believe the story that Mark Burnett, one of the biggest villains in this story, told about Donald Trump, that he was a successful billionaire. But even before the election, we didn't have all the information, but we knew it wasn't true. I mean, there was plenty of coverage about what Donald Trump did to get out of several bankruptcies and how many times he got lucky and got a second chance to kind of survive and claw his way back. And look, even so, we're not one hashtag away from cracking this nut, Priyanka.
Two hashtags.
Two hashtags.
Got it. Well, I wonder if a hashtag will be helpful for our latest breaking news, courtesy of Elijah. The Senate Intelligence Committee has subpoenaed Don Jr. Over Russia matters, and we just wanted to ask you for some reactions.
I love it.
It's great.
Especially
if it's what you say in the summer.
Yeah, especially if it's in a couple weeks.
I will say this. This is a point that I haven't yet made, and something that I found when I was perusing the report by Robert James Comey Mueller. He's starting to become more Comey-like as the days pass on. That's what I'm sort of starting to hint at as time we face it. But no, the point I was going to make is only that when you read anything about Donald Trump behind the scenes, he is never as stupid behind the scenes as he seems in front of the camera. And I think it's sometimes worth remembering that he is not bright and he is not up to this job of being president, but he is not the total stone cold moron that he is often painted to be. However,
Don Jr.
when you read behind the scenes anything that looks at what Don Jr. is like, he is truly as dumb as he seems. Which is really fucking hard to do, but he does it. And my hat's off to him.
Still going to be president someday.
Yeah.
No. I think it's smart they do this because Don Jr. is not an administration official. And so there is no sort of...
there's no my daddy doesn't want me to clause.
Right, he's just a private citizen who got subpoenaed. So you don't show up, that's going to be a problem.
Uh-oh.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Pop your popcorn.
Can they get one of those cells ready deep within the Capitol where the Supreme Court used to meet?
And look,
get a couple of yoo-hoos down there for him.
We were just talking about what's useful for 2020. Like, is this tax story going to make a difference? Whatever. Is Don Jr.'s testimony going to be useful to beating Trump in 2020? Maybe, maybe not. I don't give a shit. This is going to be great.
Sometimes, have you been seeing Game of Thrones? Sometimes it's just fan service. Right. But you know what? We're fans, and we want to be serviced.
Great time to switch to some policy questions, but I promise we'll get back to more fun stuff soon.
Okay.
We got some Game of Thrones, don't worry. Okay. First off, we want to talk about the abortion law in Georgia.
Yeah.
This is really taking a turn, and I'm sorry.
No. Okay.
This person says, I assume it's going to be challenged in the courts. What may happen if/when it gets to the Supreme Court? And can we just recap for everybody what this new law says?
Yeah, this is a so-called heartbeat bill. It's now the law in a number of different states, Republican-controlled states. It basically bans any abortion after 6 weeks. And, of course, women don't know they're pregnant, even within 6 weeks.
Right, many women don't know
most
they're
of the, many women, most of the time. And so it is an effective complete ban on abortion. It criminalizes abortion. It even criminalizes abortion even if you drive out of state. If you take someone to get an abortion out of state, you can be charged with conspiracy to commit homicide under this law. So it is an incredibly barbaric law. And, you know, anyone who's called Roe v. Wade settled law, like fucking Brett Kavanaugh during his hearings, I think, you know, this should not stand in the Supreme Court. But, you know, the reason that anti-abortion activists have been pushing these laws is because they know that they're not legal under the current framework, under the current precedent, but they hope that they can get these laws in front of the Supreme Court, and that a Supreme Court made up of Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch would overturn Roe v. Wade, or at least say that the precedent set in Roe v. Wade does not match this new law, or does not hold for this new law.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think a lot of the risk is painted as a binary as to whether or not the court will uphold Roe. But I do think it is, who knows what will happen, but it is more likely that part of the reason they feel so emboldened to pursue these laws is it is an opportunity to chip away at Roe and end up with more and more restrictions, because that is what the conservative court has been prone to do.
Yeah, and then Michael just wrote us a little slack that Stacey Abrams is going to be talking to you guys tomorrow, and this is signed into law by her opponent in the race.
That's right.
That's
right. We're lucky to have Stacey Abrams on tomorrow. Dan will be talking to her for the pod, and I'm sure he'll be asking her about this and all the other kind of shenanigans going on in Georgia.
And, you know, this law being signed in Georgia, what DeSantis has done in Florida is just and to kind of be part of putting a poll tax on people to have had their voting rights returned by the people of that state, right, who came together to vote on it. These elections had such sweeping consequences, and certainly in Georgia, you can look at Georgia and say, as Stacey Abrams has, that had there not been so many shenanigans in that election, had people actually been able to vote, she'd be the governor right now. So
and there would be no heartbeat law right now.
So we really
matter.
are seeing the consequences of these really close elections and the effectiveness of making it harder for people to vote.
All right. Our next one is a question from Twitter. This may be a naive question, but what do you think could actually change Republican officials' stances on gun control? I'm so tired of planning exit routes on my first day of school.
One thing that would change their mind is if they no longer could vote in any legislative body because they were private lobbyists for an unrelated industry because we defeated them.
Yeah, beating them is number one. The other thing that changes their mind is if they are more afraid that they're going to lose to a Democratic opponent than lose the support of, I'll say the NRA, but also their base, which is, you know, rabid about some of these issues. And so it takes people like Moms Demand Action and the Parkland students and everyone who's been, every town and everyone who's been fighting on the ground and you know, letting politicians know that the voices of people who want common sense gun reforms are louder than the NRA lobby and the, you know, pro-gun activists. I will say one other thing, because I was talking to John Hickenlooper when he came in, and he passed a sweeping, you know, universal background check ban on ammo, high-capacity ammo when he was in Colorado, and I asked him, you know, how did you get it through with the Republicans? Well, he had a Democratic legislature, but then when the Republican legislature took over, some of them are trying to repeal it. And he said, he's like, you know, we threw at them all of these local statistics, Colorado-based statistics, of how many people who had been convicted of homicide or of other violent crimes trying to buy guns. And because they had background checks, they stopped these people from buying guns. People who had been convicted of sexual assault trying to buy guns. And the Republican argument had been, criminals aren't that stupid. They're not going to go try to buy a gun when they know they have this record of crime. And sure enough, plenty of criminals tried to go buy guns, and Colorado stopped them. And a bunch of the Republican legislators who wanted to repeal that law decided, you know what? When it's his argument was, when it's localized like that, when it's giving guns to the people down the street who've been convicted of a violent crime, suddenly these people are like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't do that.
Well, they can see the ads coming from them too. It's
That's right.
I think one of the issues too, and this is the hardest, larger problem to solve, is guns have become like a shibboleth on the right. They've been the issue has been divorced of reality. It is kind of untethered from like the human plane and is now just a kind of moral stance. And, they're opposed to virtually all gun control, and no matter what the facts say. And I think this is, again, it comes down to a propaganda apparatus that just doesn't care about facts or information. It's similar to climate change. Like, how do you get somebody to believe the obvious evidence before their eyes, that there are sensible things we can do to reduce the amount of gun deaths in this country that protect the right to bear arms if that's something that these people care about? And it's really hard, but that is part of the reason the successes have happened at the local level, because the polls are the same, right? People support common sense gun control at the national level. They support it across the country. They support it in most states. I think I'm going to pull a number out of my hat, but it was something like it had a majority support in, I think, 42 states at the last time I checked. But nationally, the issue is fully it's white identity politics. It's conservative identity politics, and so there's no moving them. But at least at the local level, people seem to be able to be reasoned with at times.
Got it. Okay, so speaking of elections, electing new people in, we have a few 2020 questions. First up, what's with states that are who are declining to put Trump on the 2020 ballot unless he shows us the tax returns? Is this a good idea? Does this even matter? What do we think of this?
Unclear if it matters. The state that's been trying this is here in California. The legislature passed a provision that said any candidate who wants to be on the ballot has to provide their tax returns. I mean, we've talked about this before. What Trump has made clear to all of us is rules and norms are made to be broken by people like Donald Trump. And that's why more rules and norms should actually be laws. So this is the state of California trying to codify what had been a norm, showing your tax return if you're running for president, into a law. Will it have much of an effect? I don't know. If Donald Trump's not on the California ballot.
Look, here's the thing: if Donald Trump's
winning California,
if Donald Trump's winning in California, that means vote for whoever you want. This is a fake election run by a Russian computer somewhere outside Moscow. So whatever. I will say, like,
when he can't get on the ballot in Ohio and Florida, come talk to us.
Yeah, that's. I think. Look, I think that is a. I think it's something that I'm of two minds on. If Donald Trump, if we believe that Donald Trump is this emergency, and these are legal steps people can take to try to hold him accountable. I understand the rationale for that. At the same time, it is quite a dangerous precedent to set, to have ballot access perhaps determine the outcome of a presidential election. So I actually just don't know what to think of it just yet. I think it's a big and interesting direction. Beyond
unclear,
that,
you're
I'm
right.
not sure.
Unclear if the courts would hold it up, right?
Yeah.
Because there's certain qualifications for president that are laid out in the Constitution. Releasing your tax returns isn't one of them. So I think that the court would have to decide whether it is legal to do that or not.
Right. But even for me, I don't understand the legal issues, because but even before you get to the legal issues, there's this question well, we want people to ultimately, we want to beat Donald Trump because we beat him, let's just fucking beat him.
Yeah. I'll take any way I can get.
Yeah, I suppose that's true too.
Okay. Heather wants to know, I think a question on all of our minds. When will the Democratic field start to narrow? Do we have to wait until Iowa?
Probably.
I think
Probably.
Oh man, Iowa. I think the lower, ironically, the lower down certain candidates are, because they're the least known, the less likely they are to get out. I think we'll see. Like, there are certain people that have, I think, something to lose by going down in flames in Iowa, and there are others that don't.
Like flames, like 0%. No one caucused for you.
Yeah, just a zero, just a big.
If you're heading into the Iowa caucus, there's a possibility that no one in the state of Iowa caucuses for you.
Yeah.
Maybe at that point you might think
Seek a redoubt in the Senate.
I should head back to the House. I should head back to the Senate. I should head back to my private life, whatever you may have been doing before. So I think you could see a few drop out before Iowa, but I think mainly it'll be after Iowa. And again, there's a 15% threshold in Iowa to end up getting any delegates. And I think if you leave Iowa with 0 delegates, you don't have much of a path.
Got it. Okay. I think we had a quick question on the ballot stuff before we go back. What do you, in general, people want to know what you guys think about taking a candidate off the ballot in primaries because of the same provision that California is trying to take Trump off the general election ticket on?
Because isn't there something that people think that the primary, it might be more legal to do so in the primary or something?
I think so. That's going on in the YouTube comments.
I feel completely ignorant of this issue.
I guess I feel the same as I do about the general election.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't change it for me that it's the primary, not the general.
But look,
legally it might. I know that. I've read that, but I'm not sure.
I've said it once. I'll say it 1,000 times. I want to see Swalwell's taxes.
Tommy's going to be demanding them when he comes
Tommy,
in here tomorrow.
Swalwell's here tomorrow. Tommy is going to shut that interview down.
We're going to bar the door.
Bar the door. We want those tax returns. I want W-2s. I want W-9s.
Got it.
I don't know.
Okay. And more breaking news. This stream is wild. The House Judiciary panel has voted to hold Bill Barr in contempt of Congress, escalating the fight over the Mueller report.
Oh, look at that. Look at that wearing their power on the outside, huh?
They got him.
Boom. All right. Now on to the fun stuff. We broke them out today because we got a couple specific ones for each of you.
Okay.
So, and then we have you can come back together and answer. But
why don't we just do whatever the fuck we want once you ask the question?
All right. Well, this one says Lovett, comma, so Lovett, comma. What was the best thing you ate in Texas this time around?
Great question. Thank you for asking. It was.
Question was from John Lovett.
I will say two things. I'll answer your question, then I'll answer a different question.
Okay.
Because it's the question I want to answer.
All right.
To answer the question directly, it was Mia's in Dallas. It was the brisket tacos, and they were
sounds delicious.
Phenomenal. That was maybe my favorite Tex-Mex meal that I've ever had.
Wow. You've had a lot of Tex-Mex in your time.
I've had so much Tex-Mex. I came back from Texas with an acute case of Tex-Mex poisoning, which is treated with salad, with LA-based salads. Answer your second question, and thank you for asking. What was the proudest moment for me on the tour in Texas? We did a taste test at the Austin show on stage. This tour was a food-based extravaganza. So Travis anonymized. We got 4 different kinds of barbecue from 4 different restaurants, from Cooper's, La Barbecue, Black's, and Franklin's. And I did a blind taste test of all 4. Emily Heller, who's a vegetarian, also did a blind smell test. We gauged all 4, and this is maybe one of the proudest moments of my life. Not only did I rank them, based on taste alone, I successfully identified Franklin's barbecue and Cooper's barbecue just by taste.
Wow.
I don't go to Austin that much, but I eat so much barbecue when I'm there that I can identify brisket restaurants by the brisket.
How did the audience feel about this?
They loved it. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
I'm just saying, I may be a gay Jew from Hollywood, all right? But I got the GI tract of a American cowboy.
Love to talk about this.
Thanks, Milo.
Great. Love it. Also, who is your best pick, or who's your pick for best representation of camp at the Met Gala?
Another great question. And actually, you know how carefully I like to prepare for these live streams. I went through basic...
I'm reading the news. I'm trying to figure out tax returns,
Was
contempt
this what you had
citations.
Brian doing,
and
pulling for you?
He's in there. He's like, Brian, our assistant. Brian, come in here and talk about the Met Gala with me.
Well, somebody
half hour going.
I'm not
going
to talk about it with. I'm not going to talk about it with the Navy Blue Bros, Tommy and John. I'm going to talk about it with some other people. No. He was telling the story of me calling you to have a conversation about Met Gala looks.
Okay.
But
Brian,
he wasn't.
come say hi to the camera. This is Brian.
Thanks, Brian. So he just came running because
That's
John
how-
yelled his name.
That's how good of an assistant he is.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand. What do we become? You just shout someone's name, the door opens, he runs in.
It's better than the bell that you wanted.
God.
Listen, back to the Met Gala looks. All right, some real hits, some real misses. I'm going to say Billy Porter and Ezra Miller were, to me, my favorite looks of the men. Oh, and also, by the way, obviously, people don't like to praise Jared Leto because of his personality, but I thought, and also Jared Leto has one of the most infuriating sentences in the Elizabeth Holmes podcast, where his way of complimenting, his way of complimenting Elizabeth Holmes is to say, "This person makes me look like a lazy bastard." Like he's like his own work ethic is the implied compliment for Elizabeth Holmes. Point is, he looked cool as hell. Wearing a red gown and carrying your own head on a stick is very camp. I also thought Michael Urie had a fantastic outfit that was very camp to me, and
Which
I
one
really
was that?
appreciated that. Billy Porter looked fantastic. The women, Lupita, oh my God, Janelle Monáe was awesome. Cardi B was awesome. Lizzo was awesome. There were a lot of big. Who created all the OJ? Ryan Murphy looked great. That was cool. Who created all the OJ? Ryan Murphy looked great. It was cool. I will say, Rami Malek, yikes. Like, there were a lot of people who just did not take the assignment seriously. A lot of men showing up with just some boring tuxes. Not for it. Not for it. Here's the other thing, though. Controversial position. If the theme of an event is camp, it is actually not possible to successfully achieve camp.
That makes
because
sense.
it requires some kind of defiance. Like, it's like a theme of a party being counterculture. Like, it doesn't make any sense. How do you subvert something whose theme is subversion? Do you show up? Maybe the answer is to just show up in like a Men's Warehouse boxy rented tuxedo.
Be like, this is the ultimate.
Wow, maybe they
subversion.
won.
Yeah, maybe so.
Shit.
Anyway, point is, it was a great night. Everybody had a great time at the Met Gala.
Wow, Lovett, are we going to see you there ever?
I mean,
Is it on your...
listen,
Are there,
is it on
are
my-
there plus ones?
Is it on my plus one? I would say it is
plus one
There are crazier places I could end up on my plus one world tour than the Met Gala. Let's all cross our fingers. And by the way, if I were to ever achieve the plus one designation at a Met Gala, you better believe. I dress to impress.
Wow.
All right, we'll switch to one for you, Favreau.
I'll take this one.
Does John still think there will be a democracy in Westeros?
Yeah, I'm shipping democracy in Westeros.
Still on that take?
Oh,
Spoilers.
spoilers. Too late now. That's a pretty broad.
That's not a spoiler.
Yeah, that's
well,
not-
spoiler from what? Spoiler now. Turn it off because we're gonna say some things. Like I said, vague notion of democracy. I think is what I called it last time. A rudimentary democracy. I don't know. They've tried it before in Westeros in a few different places. The Night's Watch is voted. They vote democratically. Although you know where else they vote?
Iron Islands.
Iron Islands, and they got Euron Greyjoy, so that hasn't worked out so well. For
Well,
them.
you look, democracy is messy. Sometimes you end up with a real
Although-
Euron Greyjoy type.
Although he's sort of he's hanging on there.
Honestly, Euron Greyjoy had achieved his presidency of the Iron Islands with a fake story about his own heroism and defeated a qualified woman who everyone recognized deserved it.
That's right. But look,
So think about that as a metaphor for something.
how many times has Danny? We talked about breaking the wheel. I think the showrunners want the wheel to be broken. I no longer think that Danny's going to be the one to break the wheel because it seems like they're setting her up for a tough turn.
So
Tough turn. I don't think she's going to make it.
I will share what had been my prediction. It's actually pretty spoiler free.
Ghost will rule.
Ghost will rule.
Ghost will come back. Sit on
What
that
a
throne.
hey! That dog has been with you from the fucking beginning. All right, you pet that dire wolf when you say goodbye. You pet that wolf. That wolf lost an ear for you.
The explanation from the director that it was CGI, so he couldn't really pet him. You got fucking two people riding around on dragons.
Yeah, I see people petting
What are you
dragons all the
talk-
time.
What are you talking about?
You can't pet Ghost.
They're jumping on dragons.
These dire wolves, a symbol of destiny and magic from the very first episode of the show, which is like you wave goodbye. You wave. Back to my prediction for Game of Thrones. I believe my prediction. And look, who knows? And I want to say that this is
Who knows?
I'm out of the prediction business.
Except in Game of Thrones, back in.
Back in. If you said to me, you have to tell me how this is going to end, here's what I would guess. I would guess that at the end of this series, none of the characters we love and care about sit on the Iron Throne.
Agree.
That might be because it's somebody new and inconsequential who ends up there, or it might be because there is no Iron Throne anymore. But to me, what happens is the dragons are gone. The Night King is gone. Magic is gone from the world, and the series basically ends with the story of our heroes: the queen who couldn't be burned, the king who came back from the dead, the burning of the sept, all the stories and magic, the killing of the Night King, the Long Night, all of that. Melisandre, it's all told like a fantasy to people who no longer believe it and think it's just a story used to scare children because everyone who was a part of saving the world is no longer around.
And I sort of think that's why Bran, in some way, we're going to come back to him, or he's going to be integral to the ending in some way.
He's not Bran. I don't understand why you don't get that.
Bran as the three-eyed raven.
He's just not Bran anymore.
Because
he says it every single week.
Yeah. It's your choice.
Hey, Bran. I'm not Bran. We get it. We get it. You're not using that name anymore because you found 9 Inch Nails.
The warg formerly known as Bran. Yeah, because he keeps the history of the world, and part of the lesson is like, let's always remember our history. That kind. I think they're gonna do something like that. I think you're right. I'm with you on the end.
We'll see.
Wow. I'm still 3 seasons behind this, so.
Oh, that's
cool.
awkward for you.
We
Anyways.
didn't tell her anything.
This one's for you,
on the
Lovett.
internet.
Someone's writing their high school humanities paper about you and using humor to express anger, and they want to know when to use it and when to drop the humor. I'm hoping I could get a quote on the topic.
Here's what I'd say.
He said he wanted questions.
Thank you for asking.
Priyanka, why don't you catch up on a few episodes of Game of Thrones?
Humor, anger, how do they fit together? Right? This is the topic we're looking at here, and it's an important one. I tend to express my anger when I'm angry, and I like to use jokes when I'm feeling kind of funny.
Is that the quote?
Great answer.
What are you looking for?
No,
That's a
I just
quote.
wanted to know.
Quoted from John Lovett during live stream. May 8th.
I would say this. I would say one thing about humor in politics, to give a serious answer, one thing about humor in politics is it gives you the opportunity to attack things that make you angry, that make you frustrated, that seem absurd, that are morally reprehensible even, without you yourself having to seem incredibly outraged or incredibly angry, with you keeping your cool. Like one of the things that Barack Obama did incredibly well at the White House Correspondents' Dinners is he was able to poke fun, and even not at the dinners, whenever he used humor, he was able to poke fun at something important, all right, make light of something where we share some kind of context without him having to kind of blow his top, right? To me, it's about connecting with people about something. There are ways to connect with people about something you're really angry about without being really angry. And humor is one of the ways people can successfully do that.
Got it.
That works. That was a
yeah.
quote for a term paper. You're welcome. What was the person's name?
Madison.
Man,
Let us know what grade you get, Madison.
Please.
your parents really were checking that top names list when they named you, huh? Tough break. I'm just saying.
It.
Madison's
All
a
right.
great name.
Well, speaking of baby names, this is a great transition into our next question.
Too
Let's rapid fire
Kyle's laughing.
away from you insulting our viewers.
Maybe she goes by Maddie.
Oh my God. Okay. What are your guys' thoughts on the royal baby name, Archie Harrison, Mountbatten Windsor? What do you think? Uh-oh.
Great.
Uh-oh.
I got, as some of you might have seen on Twitter, I got a text from Emily as soon as I get to work that just says, the only thing the text says is, Archie Harrison, 4 exclamation points. I don't know what the fuck she was talking about at all, because I hadn't looked yet.
Hey, I have a little text Emily could read. It's called the Declaration of Independence.
Oh,
Who gives a shit? Oh, a British person had a baby. A lot of British people had babies today. I don't know any of their
she a
names.
British person?
I don't know any of their names.
I don't think she counts as a British person.
Yeah, he's got dual citizenship, Archie.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. So after we
why
get through
he's-
this autocracy, we have the next threat coming down the pike.
I think it's a really cute name.
I like the name.
Yeah.
Harrison is Emily's middle name. That's why she liked it too.
We took down an empire so that we wouldn't have to give a shit.
It reminds me of Chris Harrison, which is like a tribute to America.
Don't get me started on that was the tribute, not Archie. It's the
so
Harrison.
funny.
It's a tribute to The Bachelor.
It's a tribute to Riverdale and The Bachelor.
Yeah.
It is a
Wow.
testament to how unmoored we are from the basic tenets of what makes America a place worth living in, that anyone cares what some royal family in Europe, okay, it is
You're
in
okay,
Europe, all right, what's going on with them? I don't care. They're just people to us. They're just people.
Wow.
They're just two people who had a baby. And you know what? I hope they're happy.
I think it's a beautiful name that crosses cultures. Anyways, have you
Was-
guys seen Knock Down the House yet? And what did you think, if so?
I saw it Saturday. I thought it was phenomenal. It's very inspiring. It's well done. It's, people know it as a documentary about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but it also followed 3 other candidates who were sort of progressive outsiders that challenged establishment candidates. And look, though, I think you will learn more about politics, what drives outsider candidates, what grassroots organizing means from that documentary than you will from most of the analysis that you see other places about politics. It's very well done. I liked it a lot. Did you see it?
I haven't watched it yet, in part because my home is a politics-free place when I get home at night right now. And so I have been actually making my way through the AFI 100, catching all the films I hadn't seen before. So last night I watched The Maltese Falcon. The night before I watched Double Indemnity, because I'm kind of in a noir place, and I was interested in some sort of like kind of, cat and mouse stuff. All right, maybe controversial, John. I got to tell you, Maltese Falcon, more like Maltese snooze, more like snooze. Double Indemnity. Now that's a movie. That's a movie, huh? Huh? 2 double thumbs up for Double Indemnity.
All right, last one before we end. The people want to know, what are your best ideas for Mother's Day? What should you get your mom?
I feel like we're forced to talk about this
we
every
talk
time we
about
read
every
a fucking
ad.
ProFlowers ad. Sherry's
What
berries.
have you gotten your parents in the past, like, for a thing like this? Like, you don't have to give away this
I
year.
think as you get older, it's like time is better. Is sort of the best gift. Time with your parents. So
Wow.
So this weekend, my parents are going to come down for a little barbecue.
Every once in a while, I've surprised
have.
my mother for Mother's Day. That's not happening this year. Surprise, Mom. If you see this, surprise, I'm not there. But I agree. I like showing up. I don't know. I don't know. Sherry's Berries, good option. ProFlowers, great option. They keep the lights on here at Crooked Media. Can't go wrong there. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Great stream.
Is that the end of the stream?
That's the end of the stream.
Wow.
I watched Unforgiven.
I saw Long Shot over the weekend, which everyone should go see. It is a phenomenal film.
I want to see Long
Wait,
Shot.
was that the one that they were talking about on Keep It?
Yes.
Okay, wait. The people want to know. What's up with that?
I mean, it's definitely marketed to me specifically. I love a good rom-com. I love a good Seth Rogen stoner-style humor movie and a movie about politics. And it's about a speechwriter. It's about a speechwriter who works for a Secretary of State based on Lovett and Hillary Clinton. That's not true.
I will say a kind of acerbic stoner speechwriter for Hillary Clinton is you can look farther to find someone to base it on, I suppose.
I met with the director like 2 years ago when he was it was like a draft script. I went out to dinner with him and he wanted to know all about like what's like being a speechwriter and all that kind of stuff. And he told me the idea for it in the script. And I admit I left the dinner thinking like, I don't know if it's going to work. And then I saw it over the weekend with Emily and my mother, and we laughed the whole movie. It was very, very funny. and it's like not doing as well as I think it should. I'm starting like
Now
a
we're
pro
doing
bono.
punditry.
I'm doing like a pro bono
You did-
marketing campaign. No, I
No,
want.
it's not, John. It's not pro moto. They paid us to market it on Pod Save America.
They did?
Yeah, we promote.
Oh, we did?
We did ads for it.
I didn't know we did an ad for it.
You were in there.
I know,
God.
but I can't remember. We do so many fucking ads.
Well, that's how you know it's legit. That's a real opinion because he thought we didn't get paid to think it.
Me, Emily, Sarahwick, and Tessawick, we're all doing a pro bono marketing campaign.
It's so funny.
For long
I need
shot.
to. I want to see it. I want to see it.
Yeah. So there you go.
Cool. Add it to the list after I'm done with Game of Thrones.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have, I guess.
The real
Thanks
end
for
of the stream.
bearing with us. Obviously, we hit a lot of important topics. We hit a lot of really important topics, and I'm glad we did.
Glad we did too. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
They won't. We're on tour.
What?
We're on tour.
You'll see us when you fucking see
Okay.
us. You'll see us sometime. All right. Why don't you just sit at your computer, hitting that little circle
you see two people sitting in the
until you see two people that work for Barack Obama.